Talk! WrestleTalk!
Well, that Johnny Gargano tells all, investigate, sit down, interview thing was sure a segment, and everyone is in agreement that it didn't make sense, right? Comments? You were all in agreement.
Pete, did Johnny Gargano sit down?
He did.
Did Johnny Gargano tell all?
Well,
Did WWE investigate it?
it's true.
Then
They did.
I argue, where's your problem? Welcome to the show.
Welcome to the WrestleTalk Podcast review of Raw. Luke is off today, so I'm filling in, and everyone is very happy about that choice.
I'm happy about that choice. I like to see you.
Oh, yeah. Also, it's November, so, don't expect this for long, because apparently we're doing a photo shoot sometime in November, so I'm going to have to grow my beard back real quick.
I will say, when you did say that you'd shaved and a mustache, I was like, you are aware that the rest of the beard is still there, right?
Yeah. I just need to, grow back more.
Right, gotcha.
It's just less.
It's now in the awkward phase where you look like you've had an odd haircut and, they've missed a bit.
Yeah,
Except
I just need
it's a large bit.
Exactly,
Yeah.
yeah. So I just need to, not... It's fine. Anyway, send in your Ultrachats to WrestleTalk.com/support. Gonna go through all the ones that are $5 and up by the time the show goes off the air. And we're gonna start with this thing that everyone objectively agrees with me that it doesn't make sense. Which was this WWE investigates Johnny Gargano's sit-down interview tell-all thing, where he basically gave a reason for the Dexter Lumis Miz storyline, which has been going on for... I want to say about 3 months.
Yeah, it's well, what's interesting is the first episode of the Raw review I did was Luke saying, this is Jump the Shark, what's going on, this doesn't make any sense, kind of thing. So that's the whole time I've been on the show, which at this point is pushing 2 months, has been this. We were already arguing at that point it needed an incentive, it needed to keep going.
Yes.
I've always enjoyed the storyline, but there did come a point a couple of weeks ago where I was like, right, I really need some forward movement on this. So yeah, it's better part of 3 months that it's been crackling along.
So at this point, Johnny Gargano sat down with Byron Saxton, and I thought the presentation of what they were doing was very good.
Very, very funny. 60 minutes inspired right down to the ticking clock. I wrote down immediately I'm laughing because Byron Saxton is playing his part very well.
So well. Incredibly convincingly well.
This is where Byron Saxton belongs. Because I don't think Byron Saxton is bad. I just think Byron Saxton was not the face color commentator that we needed. I don't think it suited him. I think backstage segments are so valuable. Renee Paquette signing with AEW is a big deal because she's so good at facilitating those backstage segments. We think about JR sat with Stone Cold and Rock before WrestleMania 7. These segments are important. Byron Saxton works really well in this environment, and he was playing it to perfection. It was so funny.
It was very, very good. And we cut across to Johnny Gargano telling the truth about the relationship between The Miz and Dexter Lumis. And he revealed that he had an audio recording on his phone of essentially revealing that Miz had been paying Dexter Lumis to stalk him, so Miz could say, I have a stalker. And then at some point he stopped paying Dexter, so then Dexter was actually attacking him for realsies.
Yeah.
And kind of Byron brought up these points of being like, I mean, that doesn't make sense because he had a United States title shot and in the cage match, and you saying he lost that on purpose, and Johnny's like, well, yeah, obviously, because he's the Miz.
He knew it wasn't going to be Lashley.
Yeah.
It was his point.
Yeah.
He was like, he's not going to beat him. He's the Miz.
He doesn't have a chance to beat Lashley.
Yeah.
So, of course, he paid off Dexter. I didn't like it.
Okay.
I don't think... Okay, here's the thing. And I know everyone's going to be very upset with me, and people have been upset with me in the comments and everything. A lot of people saying this just fits perfectly with everyone's characters. In the Miz is so kind of shallow that he would totally do this.
And I will say having... No, you go on, then we'll unpack it. Yeah.
I think that it is a bad idea to paint Miz's ego as larger than stuff like the United States title. That he would rather get a headline than get a title in WWE. Because I thought that kind of the point of the wrestling is to win belts, right? That's sort of the point of why everyone's there. But if you're painting that as he would prefer to get the headline. And they did that, and he attacked him and did all this stuff to make it more convincing that it was that. And he pointed out, like, when he was dragged away by Dexter Lumis, it was bad acting because he didn't...
That was a wonky one for me.
And I was like, something's not gelling with me here. I thought this was a bad cover-up of the story. This felt like, to me, very kind of like transparently, that they made the story up recently, long after the story had started, rather than this being the end goal of the story. And I thought you could very quite clearly tell that
the anonymous
this was
Raw GM situation.
Exactly, where they start a story and then go, what's the explanation for this? Miz paid him off to attack him. And for me, the explanation just didn't work.
The interesting thing is, I'm very fastidious about the titles being important, and it's why it bothered me so much when Matt Riddle brought out those bongos, because it wasn't Matt Riddle and the bongos, it was the bongos immediately preceding an important championship match against his main rival. That's what bothered me. So I'm big with the titles being really important. Where I disagree is that I actually think this really serves to further Miz as this sort of heel who is like delusional. It is true that celebrities pay off paparazzi. Like I've actually listened to a podcast recently, a podcast series which was highly great. Cannot remember the name of it, but it was Claire Malone from who previously of 538, which did a whole series of essentially pop culture in the early noughties and tabloid culture and things like that. And it was a whole thing of, the celebrities would say, paparazzi, we are going to be at this restaurant at this time so that we can get our faces in the tabloids, in the magazines and all those things, because it's for exposure. So the idea of Miz, A-lister, letting his insecurity get the better of him, thinking, what's the next step in my career? I've got my reality TV show. I've done the movies. I'm the A-lister. I should have a stalker. Paying a stalker and it being, interrupting, and then he can pretend, as long as he doesn't get found out, he can pretend, I was interrupted in the middle of a title match and blah, 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 blah. I actually bought that. That really worked for me. It was the stuff like, look at him, walking bad actor. He's walking weird. That did feel like it was not exposing the business, but it did a little bit feel like you were just saying that was bad in hindsight. It was like, and it's not in that way of like, oh yeah, we meant to do that all along. It just wasn't
bad.
A vibe.
Yeah.
And then there were other things where, when Byron's pointing out, I'm not too sure how, because there was a point where he started saying, I now have a hunch. It's like this stuff I know, this stuff I have a hunch.
Yeah.
And that's where it starts to feel a little bit like, okay. However, the reason I ultimately fell on the side of being okay with this segment and quite liking it and was, number one, we got something. Number one, we got concrete explanation for what's been going on, which has been lacking. Number two, it felt like movement. It felt like, okay, so this isn't the definitive, this is the big expose, because when we cut back, Corey's like, I disagree with all of this. There's still a question mark over it. There's still a minute of what might be next. Where's the story going? So it is furthering the story, which I appreciate. My problem, if I were to have a problem, is in terms of character, not with The Miz, not with Dexter Lumis, with Johnny Gargano.
Yeah.
Because Johnny Gargano, I feel, is a fantastic wrestler. Love to see him watch. Haven't been convinced with him on the mic the past couple of weeks. And I don't know what the point of this character is, because if he's making stuff up, if he's lying, that's not cool. That's very sympathetic towards The Miz. If he's telling the truth, he doesn't seem like someone that it's a bit dweeby.
Yeah.
He's been made to be a bit dweeby the past couple of weeks.
You could make the argument that he's looking out for his son-in-law, Dexter Lumis,
like
married into his NXT family.
But the way he's delivering it is weird. I'm not sold on his performance of it. It wasn't. It didn't vibe.
Yeah, I think that's the ultimate thing for me, is that it didn't vibe for me, and I think it's not necessarily that it doesn't make sense in terms of Mrs. character to do something like this, but it doesn't make sense to present it like this, if that makes sense. It was just, at the end of it, I was like, really? At the end of it, to quote The Miz, really? Like, is that where we're going with this? I also think another factor of that made me kind of come out feeling that way was the fact that this is so late in the story.
Yeah, I wrote down it's about a month late.
I would say possibly even longer than that. In that I think there was a moment where you could have done this to make sense. Or I think if this was going to be the plan, which is why, again, for me, it didn't vibe, because it felt very transparently like they've just come up with it recently. I think you should have had a difference in the attacks that Dexter Lumis was doing, where there was a hint to there's something going on here, and then it flips and it goes, oh, actually, this one's real. Like, this is, and the other ones might not be. Like, if there was some sort of question mark surrounding it beforehand, that this then revealed it, I think having the attacks be exactly the same throughout the entire course, it would be like, at a random point in here, they changed and he stopped paying him. It's like, well, when was that? Because we don't know, because you made it up late.
I do also think that when you're in the thing about wrestling is that you can have all the plans in place and stuff happens.
Absolutely.
Injuries happen. Like, a great example of it is the Sami Zayn storyline. Reports this week that there was a big plan for KO and Sami Zayn that has now been put on hold because Sami Zayn.
Which, by the way, thumbs up for that.
Yeah.
If you have plans and then you go, actually, this thing's mega over, we're going to go with this thing for now. We'll pause it and we'll come back to that later. That's great.
There's a difference, I think, between that kind of thing, that kind of approach, and going, okay, we've started and we'll figure it out when we get there. Like, we'll just keep going for a while, do another one of those, and then we'll see. That's where the difference is. I also feel we should give a quick shout out. We would be remiss not to shout Adam Lampier out for his wonderful performance in those reenactments.
Oh, they were great, weren't they?
He really did well there.
Yeah. Adam was fantastic.
He really,
that.
Congrats, Adam. Really good.
Gave it his all.
That was the other thing where it was like, Johnny's. We all know that's Johnny.
Yeah, of course.
And again, I'm like, I don't know. What am I supposed to think of Johnny Gargano at this point? That's my next question.
Yeah, I don't know. Is he just some sort of truth seeker? Is that who he is, or is he just like, I don't like the Miz, which fair.
I also think we've discussed on the channel how much I rate the Miz. I think the Miz is great.
He's fine.
The Miz is great. I will die on this hill. This is the hill I plant my flag and will die. I think the Miz is fantastic.
He's fine.
Nope. But it's almost like as a result that kind of. So that's why I believe that he would buy himself a stalker, because that's the character Miz has sold me for upwards of 10 years now. I don't know, because Gargano is still relatively new to the main roster, certainly. I'm not sure what I'm quite supposed to believe of him yet.
It kind of comes down to, like we said a few times now, just like the vibe is off, and maybe that is just our view of Gargano not fitting with what this... That he has now.
That's it, because I'm familiar with the Gargano from NXT, not the latter day stuff with I will say with Indy and Dexter. So perhaps I'll hold my hands up. Perhaps that's a continuity of that, and I haven't. I'm not as familiar with it. I'm used to the sort of DIY, fight forever situation.
And maybe there's part of me that's just like, I don't want to see Gargano doing this. I think
that's a personal response to whatever,
which is entirely a me thing. But I still felt like that. I came out of this segment being like, the presentation of this was funny, the execution wasn't. And I didn't find myself going, that was really funny. I found myself going like, wait, hold on, what if that doesn't, and I'm trying to put the pieces together and they just don't like mesh quite well. And I think that's not the feeling I should have had coming out of this segment. It should have been, that was very funny or whatever, and I didn't get that feeling. Which, by the way, if you like this segment, that's fine. That's good. Yeah. I'm glad you like the segment. Crikey. Comments. Calm down, will you? You're allowed to like it, and by golly, I'm allowed to not like it too. Anyway, shall we see what you guys think? Shall we get in some of your Ultrachats? Because I am curious to see what you guys think about this. Let's see if the Ultrachats line up with my opinions. Charles Berg said, the main reason that this doesn't make sense is because I already came up with the best conclusion to this story. If they go this route, it was a fun, goofy segment. But I don't know if I want Gargano to be a goofball here before he first establishes he's a great wrestler.
That's the one. I mean, he's had some great matches, but it is exactly that. It's like, what we've been presented with. Let's do the wrestling first, and let's give him Johnny wrestling, and then introduce the goofball element.
Yeah, maybe it's... And the thing is, maybe that is just our personal being like, well, we really like Johnny Gargano, and they're not doing what I want to do with it, which, again, total personal thing. Mayor Painesville Dan said, the Dexter Lumis storyline is excellent. I'm shocked that Dan really likes the Dexter Lumis stuff. Brilliant. Characters are explained, motivations make sense. Miz is the delusional B-celeb craving for attention. Johnny, the friend, and Dex is awesome at everything. I love this so much. Triple H knows best.
Delusional B celeb is, I mean, that's it. It works really well. Miz is doing great. I like the Miz. Miz is great.
35 Antonio said, a better explanation. Hold on. A better explanation. You're so much.
I'm actually down with the kids.
It just said WH, and I was like, what? A better explanation would have been Miz hiring Lumis to attack him because he was jealous of the attention Ciampa was getting and wanted the spotlight on him. Then refused paying Lumis because he cost him the US title when he was supposed to attack him after the match.
Okay.
That's fun. I like that. I'm now pretty sure Ciampa had a big role to play in the Lumis story, and his injury effed their plans, and they've been trying to salvage it ever since. They also can still say this was just Johnny's version of events and have Miz tell the actual truth.
Depending on Ciampa's injury, he could still be on screen without getting physical. So it would be interesting if Ciampa was involved in some way, and especially with the US title situation, because that, Ciampa nearly won the thing on that early Raw that Triple H took over. That would explain why it has felt like wheels spinning for a while. If Ciampa was involved in some way. Do a better job with fixing it is my sort of response.
Yeah. Well, you'll be happy to know that we have got coming in Luke Owen, DAD.
I did it the wrong way around.
DAD has come in.
It's both ways round because DAD is it's the same letters either way.
That's true.
Yeah. What's that word? Palindrome.
Palindrome. Yeah, very good. He has come in with his thoughts of this Miz segment, and you guys know how much that Luke loves the Miz.
Luke actually he texts me every week to remind me how much he loves the Miz. It's really, it happens in real life.
It's quite something, isn't it? Yeah.
Essays.
Luke has said, I'm sure everyone is frothing at the mouth to know what I thought of the Miz segment. It was, well, it was fine, I guess. Didn't hate it, didn't love it, didn't like it, didn't mind it. It was basically the blandest outcome to the story, if this is indeed it. Certainly not worth waiting 10 weeks for. Was this really the best thing they could come up with? I don't think so, but it was fine. I'll be honest, I was more annoyed at Miz not selling the Superman punch when he did his entrance later on. He just did his normal entrance, and then held his jaw a bit. Sell it, mate. Come on, it's Roman doing his big move on you. Put some effort in, lad. Oh, and FNL Pete's moustache is rad.
First of all,
thanks, Luke.
Your Luke impression, unbelievable. It was vivid. Second of all, I don't think this is it, full stop. I think this
I wish it was.
I
really want this story to end.
I know, and I just don't think that it is. I think that there is more to come. I think there is more explanation. I think this is now leading up to a feud. It's obviously a feud between Gargano and Miz, and I'm kind of into it because I rate the Miz. I'm sorry, I just do. And I think that they'll have a vibe of a match. I don't know that I fully agree with your point about it just held his jaw a little bit, because there's the alternative where you're overselling it too much. And it's like, it had been a while. You had the segment with the ice on backstage.
And I'll also say, yes, it's a Superman punch. It is also a punch.
It's a silly punch.
It's a punch.
It's a punch with a hop.
And like, he sold it backstage for ages afterwards, and he had ice on it. And even then I was like, geez, calm down, Miz.
Yeah.
Like, it's only a Superman punch. Chill out, mate. So I'm kind of the opposite of Luke. I was like, oh, I think you almost sold it too much. I'm like, it's only a Superman punch.
I, as I'm often accused of being, I'm a centrist in this argument. I think Miz did a fine job. I think he did exactly what he was supposed to do.
Of course, you side with the Miz. Plot Twist Jones has been a member for 15 months in a row. Said, I was too invested that Dexter was his brother or something. It's right there. Lumis.
This is it. We came up with this, or it was pitched to us, and I latched onto it immediately. And as a result, I've gone down that road. And it's like, you know when you fantasy book something in any TV show and then what you wanted to happen doesn't happen?
Yeah.
Here's a story. Shall I tell you it?
Sure.
It's complete.
How long have we got?
Oh, well, it's a complete... It's me on the show. I'm going to push the time.
Yep.
It's a complete non sequitur, but I got... we had a deal put in place to maybe do something for The Greatest Showman before The Greatest Showman was released, about like doing a playlist of covers of the songs from The Greatest Showman. So I got to listen to the soundtrack before I saw the movie. So I'd listened to the soundtrack a few times and had made a story in my head for the movie.
Yeah.
And then I saw the movie and it was not that. And I'm not to be arrogant or anything, because when would I do that? My version of The Greatest Showman is way better. It really is. So when I saw the movie, I was cross and I hated the film because it wasn't my version of the story. You know what I mean? So there is an element of that where I'm like, am I disappointed because it's not got to specifically what I was after, or because the story is not quite good enough? Or is it a little bit of both? I think it's a little bit of both. I don't think it's it. I think we will get more. I just don't know what that is yet.
Yeah.
And again, 10 weeks, exactly right.
I think it's little column A, little in column B for me, in that, like, I don't want to see Johnny doing this. I think he's worthy of more than that. And also, I just don't think this was that great. But That's just me. Let's talk about the rest of the show. We're going to do more of your Ultra Chats later on. Keep sending those into WrestleTalk.com/support. The show began, Raw began with a match. I'm always going to have a big thumbs up when you start Raw with a match.
I agree.
When you start a show with a match, thumbs up. Bianca Belair versus Nikki Cross. So this is the new Nikki Cross, not Nikki ASH anymore.
The new old Nikki Cross.
The new old Nikki Cross. I thought it was an interesting idea to have her paired up with Bianca Belair from the off.
Yeah, me too.
Because it kind of telegraphed that she was going to lose this one, which,
there came a point where I was like, because during the match begins, and there came a point where Bianca gets strung up in the ropes, and it looked like she sold it really well. I was like, uh-oh, because I'm always scared of knee issues because they are bad. She sold that really well, and then obviously Nikki traps her in the thing and starts bashing and bashing and bashing. And I thought, okay, it would actually be a good introduction to Nikki Cross as this unhinged person to have her just not care. Because what we were saying last week was that she didn't care who she was taking out. It was everybody. It wasn't specific that she was taking out the heels because she's good. She was going after literally every single person in the ring. The idea that she doesn't really care about matches, she just wants to bash away and you know, Nikki, things like that. That was my impression of Nikki Cross. I hope that was okay. Would have been, I think, a solid solution for this issue of you know, mitigating a loss. Didn't need to be an interference either. Like it could have just been a straight up DQ or a count out or anything like that because she was too busy. And then it gives you something to take into the women's match at Crown Jewel. That was all entering my head before we then found out what other plans they had in place for the rest of the night. Indeed,
yes. And I'll say as well that I think all of that is a really good idea if you hadn't just done that on SmackDown with Liv Morgan.
That's very true. That's very true.
And I think that would have been too much of a repeat.
You are completely right.
I think. But regardless, though, I thought this match was pretty good. I think this is the most offense that Nikki has got in so long. And that makes me happy because Nikki Cross is very good.
And I like this Nikki Cross very much. I just don't think that they did a particularly good job of introducing it to your casual viewer.
No.
There wasn't much in the way of explanation. It was just a return to old style Nikki Cross. And if you didn't see that Nikki Cross in NXT or even in the early days of main roster, you are not given much of an explanation here. You know, and I thought that was a little bit of a shame.
Yeah. But let's get the counter going because I'm keeping the same gimmick that Luke does in his Raw reviews. How many distraction finishes do we have on this show?
Yeah, I've started that.
One of them is in this match.
Yep.
Because of course we have distraction from Damage Control.
Yep.
Sorry, Damage Control.
Control.
And Nikki then takes all of them out, all the Damage Control out on the outside. But then she gets back in the ring and gets KO'd from Bianca. So is it almost like I don't want to say it was a heel finish from Bianca because she just hit the move on her opponent. But it kind of paints Nikki in the same light of the not a face, not a heel kind of tweener role where she's taken out all the heels, but she gets beaten in a sympathetic manner. So it's kind of like she's
a grey area when it comes to characters. Yeah.
So Nikki maintains kind of that centrist view, the Dan Layton view of this.
Just to be clear, I'm not actually a centrist. I just want to, you know.
No, you are now.
Okay.
you said it on a podcast once. That means that you are now.
Forever.
Yeah. Bianca gets the win. Immediately there's a post-match beatdown, and Bianca gets saved by Asuka and Alexa Bliss.
The return of Bianca and friends.
Here's a question. Where were they the last few weeks?
Injured.
Well,
Damage Control took them out. Alexa had taped up fingers.
Sure.
They were injured. They said so.
Yeah.
Injured.
All right. Don't believe that, but that's okay. Sure. And then backstage afterwards, they protect her from the post-match beatdown. Then backstage afterwards, Alexa and Asuka demand a women's tag title match tonight. And I was like, all right.
Yeah. Here we go.
Why not, I guess?
Yeah.
We then had the pre-advertised Lashley versus Lesnar face-to-face.
Yeah.
Except it was a split-screen interview in 2 different locations. I don't know if they know what face-to-face means.
I actually really liked Lashley's sunglasses, and I'd like to take a moment to talk about them because
they were very good,
quite spectacular. Lashley with drip is
always good, isn't he?
Very much. And I know Luke would like me to point out that Brock was wearing a Megadeth shirt. If we're going to do sartorial stuff, I should point out that. I'm sure he would have views on Megadeth. I unfortunately have
Oh, mate, I haven't listened to them in like 7 years, but they're so good.
For a second, I thought he was in the room. It really is just the most spectacular impression.
That's what he does.
It really,
that's Luke to a T right there. So they had this supposed sit-down interview, split screen, whatever, but Lesnar no-showed it. Lashley cut a promo saying that Lesnar's a Lashley wannabe, and then Lesnar just shows up at the arena instead of on the interview. And I thought for a second when he didn't show up at the interview, I was like, wow, that's a cop-out. And then he came to the arena, I was like, okay, that's fair enough. I can see that's fair enough.
If you were having Brock, you have him in front of a live crowd. It would have been foolish to get him all the way in there, not to bother.
Yeah. Just shows up at the arena and says, I didn't come here for an interview, I came here for a fight. So come on, Lashley. I really like, while he's talking, you see the shot of Lashley just like taking his microphone off and standing up, and I'm like, and you could feel the anticipation from the crowd being like, oh.
Because there was some moments as well where Lashley sort of like behind his Swish sunglasses, he was looking to the side, he was being like, what's going on here? What's that? What's that? And I was like, a really nice performance from Lashley as well, I thought, because it's Lashley has sort of been in that sort of like nothing face role for a little bit, and it was almost a little turn here, not necessarily like a full turn, but the idea that he's willing to like, he's a wannabe. We all know that Lesnar is not a wannabe Lashley, right? So the idea that he thinks that in his swag he's happy to do a sit down segment, meanwhile Brock is, it was a clever way of clearly marking, okay, this is the one you want to root for, this is the one you don't. And then I was quite happy, rubbed my hands, quite salivating at the prospect of seeing the two big beefy men slapping meat.
But then they really didn't. This is the thing for me. If
you're gonna work for me,
if you're gonna build up the they're gonna fight now thing, you should probably have them fight a little bit. And for me, they didn't fight for long enough. Like Lesnar came out and he took down Lashley on the ramp, and then they were immediately pulled apart. Yeah, and that's it. That's basically
give him a little bit longer.
I think you should give him a little bit longer. Do like something interesting or unique or creative. You know, have like Lashley get this really stiff strike into Lesnar or something like that, or put someone through a commentary table, or like go through a barricade. I know they've done through the barricade, through the commentary table stuff before, but I'm just giving examples. Just something that gives like a good spot where the crowd can go, oh, at the spot, and then they get pulled apart. For me, having like, it's a takedown,
and that's it. You want more. And
if you're building that anticipation, I feel like you should give a little bit more, and a little bit more of a, I know basically brawling is all they've done in this feud, but it's two big guys. You can get away with that.
I mean, for me, it's a 3-week feud. It's to have a match at Crown Jewel with Brock Lesnar. And so for me, it worked. I personally really liked Triple H coming out and being like, if they touch each other, this fight is off. I love an authority figure. I don't like being told, will WWE officials make this match? I'm a sucker for an authority figure, even in this day and age. I like to know who is the one in charge, who was the one making the rules on camera. So I liked that. I liked that he was furious. I liked that it was this idea of, protect our assets. This did work for me, although I do agree I would have, I like seeing people scrap. It would have been good to have a bit longer.
I think it would have been nice to have a little bit longer, and maybe even a couple more instances of if there was less people involved in the pull apart.
I like how many there are.
I liked it at the end.
Yeah.
I think if you had less people at first and they kind of like bat them away and then they connect, get pulled apart, and more people come out, and they get together again, and then more people come out, and you end up with like this sea of people that have to keep them apart.
Yeah.
I think it could have been built to a little bit more effectively. It was fine. I just feel like if you're building that anticipation of, oh, they're gonna fight, and then you don't deliver on that, it's a bit like,
Unless you are trying to sell tickets for the pay-per-view. And now we're finally going to get to see them bash each other.
I guess I don't know. It's a bit of a mix, because I can totally understand that you want to save the proper physicality for the pay-per-view because you're trying to sell it. But I do feel like you need to give them something here. Yeah. And this was like nothing. On the scale of full match to nothing, it was like right here.
Right.
It's like maybe a bit more down this end would have been better. But don't worry though, if you missed it, there was an ad break, and then they did a replay. Basically, the whole segment again.
3 hours is a long time, guys.
Whew, I don't envy people having to write a 3-hour show every week. We then got, for my money, the best thing on the show. Austin Theory versus Seth Rollins. Which I thought initially, I was like, this is an odd heel versus heel match.
Well.
But then, it's very obvious that Seth Rollins is the babyface in this one.
Absolutely.
He's got blonde in his hair again.
I know, and I loved the blonde in his hair.
It's not like the fluorescent yellow stripe that he used to have. Lovely. But he's got
lovely. It's called a balayage. It's lovely what he's got going on.
Bless you.
It's got the lovely dark, and then it flows into this balayage. It's very nice.
blonde.
I go to the salon.
Hair dye. I don't know anything about hair.
Yeah. Leave this to me.
Yeah. I'm not the expert here. So I thought this was going to be a weird like heel versus heel matchup, but as soon as like Rollins started making his entrance, I was like, no, this makes sense.
No, it does, because I mean, Seth has been operating in this weird sort of like the character it has heel behavior. Character doesn't always work for me. I will say sometimes I find it a little bit grating and not in a way that makes him an engaging heel, just actually actively annoying. But he has the crowd in the palm of his hand, and my God, that crowd love to sing that song. And when you have crowds on their feet, vocally being involved with the show, it is a good thing. Sometimes I do find in the middle of promo segments, especially Seth promo segments, it does feel a little bit like going into business for themselves. It didn't on this occasion. It was really fun and really clear then to have that, okay, this is Seth in face mode. And because he's so engaged with this character and because he's so committed to this character, he can operate both. He can come out and do the face in the match if he wants to. He can come out. He is that perfect grey area character that Triple H loves.
Centrist.
Stop it. Stop it. Grey area. It is the grey area.
The grey area, yes. Somewhere between face and heel.
But the match was delicious.
I really like this match.
That whole near fall section, and then it ends with the what was it? Oh, what do we call that brainbuster? Does it have a name, that move that Theory did? It's like a neck breaker.
The hook the leg up
the
and then he
air,
drops your head on your knee.
Oh, that
looks good, doesn't it?
Rough.
Looks good.
It was those near fall segments can actually sometimes be a little bit gash. Like they can sometimes be really bad. But this one was really well executed. The both of them, I think, brought it. It was a banger of a match. Every super kick, every near fall I was really engaged with.
Absolutely, yeah. I thought this was an absolute banger of a match.
And I thought Seth was selling for him as well, big time.
Absolutely. I think this is the best that Austin Theory has looked in a long time. And granted, he still didn't win, and he could really do with some wins soon. But this is the best that he's looked in a long time.
And what was clever about him not winning this time, I thought, was that he had it in the bag, but he was deciding to be cocky. And he started to shout, and he was like, and he goes for this pedigree, and that's giving Seth enough to Seth is smart enough to let Theory go down this road, catch his breath, and then retaliate.
Exactly.
And that's really clever, veteran, youngest Money in the Bank winner ever. But this is why you can't cash it in properly, because you are too young and you're too arrogant. And there were reports this week that they have thought about keeping it on him until Money in the Bank and having him run the clock down, which is something that we haven't seen. If they're gonna,
I've been calling for years.
It's a long time though.
Yeah.
From now until then.
Yeah.
So if they can do it, props to them. More stuff like this is really going to sell that, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the crowd were hot for it, except on the hard cam.
Yeah, which is a shame, but the crowd were hot for it regardless. I think that is the key thing, and I think why Theory looks so good coming out of this is that he had the match won. He could have won this match on another day, but it's his inexperience and his cockiness that let him down. And that is what makes Theory look good in defeat. Yeah. And that's why this is the best look for Theory so far.
Cohesive. It's a cohesive character, and that's really, really vital.
Exactly, yeah. This was really, really good. Big thumbs up from me. Bray Wyatt's going to be at Crown Jewel.
Uncle Saudi, I saw someone tweet, and I really lost it a little bit over that. Yeah, I really enjoyed that.
That's very well done to whoever did that. That's very funny. I'm sure something will happen, hopefully. Roman Reigns comes out. Big Usi chants.
Yes.
And
and there was a big sign in the crowd.
Yeah. Feeling Usi. It's great. I'm glad that people are having fun. We are going to ruin this for ourselves. I'm calling it now. We are absolutely going to ruin the Usi thing for ourselves. The fans will ruin it.
In the hands of the wrong wrestlers, it could. Yeah. But I actually wrote down, this segment wasn't a lot. We didn't get anything certainly new from this segment.
I didn't mind it.
However, this is it. I loved it, despite it not being anything new. Because as a go-home thing ahead of a big match, I thought this was just yet more evidence that Roman Reigns is the absolute guy. Right? Yeah. This was so well delivered from start to finish. And one of the things I wrote down, because do you remember when Roman was rubbish?
Yes.
Do you remember Roman was...
I did a whole video essay on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just not the one.
Yeah.
And then this sustained run, and he's part-time now.
Yeah.
And he's got both belts, and he walks to the ring, and I'm like, he is a big deal. Yeah. This is the one. I believe that no one can take it from him. I believe it. I've bought what you are selling to me. And that is in no small part because his work has been elevated by the work of everyone around him.
Yes.
I think the Usos, I think Solo, and of course, obviously, Sammy, not least of all Paul Heyman as well, is lifting him up. And that's why I have every faith in this storyline continuing to do well, because the people involved in it are making it happen.
Absolutely.
And I just love it. It's I hope they can sustain it, because in my head, Sammy taking it off him at WrestleMania is such a moment. But we are still quite far away from WrestleMania.
I would love it so much if Sammy wins. Please. So on this one, Roman said that he's done throughout his whole run, he has hyped up his opponents and they've ended up getting smashed. And people have felt let down about that. So he's not going to waste his time. He's not going to hype up Logan Paul. Logan Paul's only had 2 matches. I'm not going to waste my time with this guy. But Paul Heyman will hype him up. And I was like, that was weird, but okay, sure.
Paul found it weird too, didn't he?
Yeah, and he was like, all right. He said a line on this one. Paul Heyman said, there's one thing that Roman can't stand. He can't tolerate an outsider. And I'm like, that feels very pointed based on the rest of the Bloodline story. And I'm like, maybe that's a nice little tease of where Sami Zayn's going to end up here if he doesn't like an outsider in the Bloodline. So I quite like that line. I didn't really get why he said that line and then immediately The Miz interrupted him. And I'm like, is he an outsider of the segment? Were you referencing The Miz, or is it just coincidence that Miz interrupted at this point?
It made sense for me. Well, it was more that Miz was seeing an opportunity. I didn't think it was necessarily linked to what was being said.
No, exactly. I thought it was just an odd time Vince interrupting the promo. If you're going to tease like a Sami Zayn Bloodline thing.
Unless it was just to let it together, but not let it hang in there too long. You know, maybe it was a thing like that. Yeah.
Maybe, yeah. But regardless, The Miz interrupted Roman Reigns. I did a proper double take and I was like, Miz?
Yeah. Oh,
why is he here?
Did you not? Because immediately I was in. I knew exactly why.
Yeah. And then I was like, oh, it's Logan Paul.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. No, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So then...
And obviously Miz being a Raw person, we don't get to see him with Roman that often. So it's pretty much his first opportunity to be like, I know Logan Paul. I can help you out.
Yeah, exactly. And that's pretty much what he did.
Yeah.
Came out and he said, he knows Logan Paul better than anyone in this industry. I can help you. You know, that one lucky shot is real. But I know his weaknesses. I can help take him down. I just need help with my problem.
One lucky shot is all it takes.
One lucky shot is all it takes.
And they might.
And they're going to hit that one lucky shot, and it's going to be a great near fall.
What if they did, though?
They won't, though, will they?
What if they did, though?
Dan, you're not going to do this to me this week.
What if they did?
They're not going to do it.
They might.
I'm more convinced than ever that they won't.
Okay.
They absolutely won't.
They might.
Anywho, yeah, so he says, I can help you neutralize Logan Paul, but I need help with my Dexter Lumis thing. So, you know, and Roman's
you
like,
my back.
You scratch my back, I scratch yours, etc. And Roman then has this final line was the thing that sold me on this segment. Was, you know, maybe I can help you out, Miz, but I've just got one question for you. Why does everyone keep talking about Logan Paul knocking me out? And then he jumps up, does a Superman punch to Miz, bang, just puts him straight on his ass, and then just goes, when they should be talking about me knocking out Logan Paul. And I'm like, oh, that's a great line.
It was so good.
Yeah.
It was. And then as he continues to leave the ring and trash talk his whole way down to the camera, this is the moment for me where I'm already in the segment, but I start going, yeah, all right, go. I fully, I'm like, I acknowledge you. Like, it was fully 100%. I'm like, you are so good at this that we are lucky to be watching this storyline. I just thought this was dynamite. I really did.
Yeah, this was really, really good. And I think out of everything on the show, this is probably arguably the only thing that made me more excited for Crown Jewel than I was before.
I agree. I agree completely. Yeah, big time.
I thought this was really good. Miz backstage was selling that Superman punch with ice on his face. Mustafa Ali came in and said, Miz has tiny balls.
Yeah.
It's not funny. We then had Karl Anderson versus Damian Priest, another singles match for Karl Anderson.
Yeah.
Which I thought was really pointed because Karl Anderson's holding a singles title in New Japan. And I'm like, are you purposely putting Karl Anderson in a load of singles matches right now?
It's also quite funny. Happening? Well, I mean, there's that whole thing of that being a work, which I find quite entertaining. Yeah. I also do find it really funny that it's like, we could put Luke in this. Nah.
Karl Anderson is fine. This was kind of sort of distraction finish number 2.
Yeah.
Sort of.
And I have to say, I'm kind of curious about, and this is potentially, you know, I'm entering dicey territory here because there are things that I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm interested in how the cultural limitations of Saudi will affect the way this match goes down with Judgment Day, because they are selling it a lot on Rhea.
Yeah, Rhea's the X factor of Judgment Day.
And she does really, really well. However, I genuinely don't know, and it's not a case of me being like, well, I don't know, and I'm happy to be informed, what the cultural expectation of Rhea being physically involved, or at least involved in this match directly, will be. Like,
yes.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I thought it was a perfectly standard segment. I love Rhea. I think Rhea's great. I think she's so X Factor in this. I think
so good in this
the
role.
Knowledge that these guys aren't gonna bash her is it really sells the segments. I'm just interested in them really, and they are hyper. Even in After the Fact, there was a segment with my love of my life, Kathy Kelly, where AJ joked about Kathy being the one. She was like, no.
Yeah.
So they're really selling this on how do we end our Rhea problem.
How do we counter this Rhea problem?
Yeah. Where does that sit in the Saudi show?
I have no idea, and I don't know if it is in the Saudi show. The Saudi show might just be another stepping stone in this feud, where they just have a straight up normal 6-man tag match, and one of them wins, and then they move on from there. But
unless they do War Games.
War Games.
And they get a fourth for War Games.
That makes sense.
As an intergender War Game
that
situation.
Checks out.
That's quite fun.
I like it. For this one as well, Anderson rolled up Priest. Anderson got the win in this one. Didn't really matter at the end of the day. Rhea Ripley got involved. Priest was going to go for the Reckoning, but then gets rolled up and Anderson wins. But it doesn't really matter because there's an immediate post-match Raw and Judgment Day stand tall. Again, Ripley being the X Factor in determining why Judgment Day stood tall. This is a weird thing to try and describe because I know this has been a thing in WWE for decades at this point. But when you have a match that finishes, a person wins, and then the opposing people immediately beat them down and they stand tall, the match then doesn't matter. Because wins and losses don't really matter in WWE all that much. Yeah. This didn't do anything for the OC. The point of this segment was to have Judgment Day stand tall. Yes. That was it. This was an angle, not a match. But we did spend like 10 minutes on this match. For me, it felt like a bit of a waste of time because the match was fine, but because of the post-match beatdown, and I do mean immediately after this, I mean about 2 seconds after the bell rang, Karl Anderson's getting beaten down and Judgment Day stand tall. It then means that Karl Anderson's victory means precisely nothing.
This is again where I go to 3 hours of television is too much.
Yeah.
And it feels like constantly, not that this was filling time, but it is just, it's, you know, you got to get to the next pay-per-view, you got to put forward things on. It's a weakness. I agree. I agree. I don't know quite what you do to fix that unless it's have them face people who aren't directly related in the story to show how strong they are, but there's only so much you can do with that. It's an odd one. This is always the time of year where it does get a bit odd.
I don't mind them doing Karl Anderson versus Damian Priest. To me, that makes perfect sense. But you should have like Anderson win and then Judgment Day be like, oh no, the OC, what? Oh, that sucks. Like,
what are we going to do? Regroup.
Oh, this sucks that we lost kind of thing. Yeah. Whereas them just being like, well, we stood tall anyway, so who cares? And it's like, well, now the match doesn't matter because you guys don't care about it.
I agree with you there. That's a good point.
Omos and MVP were backstage. MVP cut a promo saying that he's coming to SmackDown and he has a surprise for Braun Strowman. Oh, hope it's good.
Yeah, in this segment, I made a cup of tea.
Checks out. Speaking of making cups of tea during segments, we then had JBL and Baron Corbin.
Hey now.
JBL got local hometown pops being like, Texas is great. And then he said, but you all suck. Boo! Local hometown heat.
And it works because he believes this stuff.
That's my problem.
The kind of person who fully believes that Texas used to be great until the liberals took over Dallas. And Dallas is a great place for this segment to take place because Dallas is that kind of incredibly forward. A lot of young people have moved there. It's very progressive. Me and my fellow liberals will be there.
Fellow centrists.
Stop it. So yeah, JBL does believe it. However, you are right, and we see this a lot. JBL is a mean human.
Yeah.
So it's a curious thing engaging. I think he's a great promo still. I think he's a great presence on the show.
He is a great promo.
But you know.
He's a great promo. I don't really have much interest in him saying Texas was great. Now it sucks. You all suck. You're all snowflakes and woke. I'm like, whatever. Like I hear enough of that language already in my life. I don't need to hear it again on this show. It's fine.
It's easy heat to turn because he's a hometown boy. It's easy heat to make him bad.
Absolutely, yeah.
You know.
And there was a whole thing with Baron Corbin. It's a long promo as well. Goodness me. And I even wrote down the thing that you just said. I said, the problem is, I don't think JBL's playing a character. He just believes it.
Yeah, straight up.
Yeah. They get interrupted by R-Truth, who's dressed up like a cowboy.
R-Truth is 5 years younger than John Bradshaw Layfield. Only 5.
5 years.
And he looks about 20 years younger.
Oh, yeah. He hasn't aged.
Not
that man.
a day.
It's crazy.
Wild.
My next note after he gets interrupted by R-Truth, who's a cowboy, is, oh boy, this show is hard to watch. R-Truth then said that everyone's in Halloween costumes, and JBL said, we're not dressed up, you idiot. And he said, yeah, you are, you're dressed up. And the thing is, I think it would have been a really good line if he said, actually, you're dressed up as a very angry, bitter, out-of-touch old man. Yeah. I was like, that's a good line. But what he actually said was, you're dressed up like a really, 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 really old, out-of-touch man. And I'm like, the delivery wasn't quite there.
Not quite as strong as
it was almost there, but not quite. Tried to do one on Corbin. Corbin is the world's biggest, but then Corbin tries to attack him. R-Truth stands tall over Corbin, but then JBL throws his hat at R-Truth, which distracts him. So then Corbin hits an end of days and he stands tall. I don't really care about any of this.
Yeah.
That's my main issue, as I don't really care.
Yeah.
I don't know why we're supposed to buy R-Truth, considering he's just been in 24/7 title stuff forever and is still doing comedy. Like, there's no real change in
just
character.
Someone that says
him.
Like the truth, and then the truth comes out. And
yeah.
Like, okay, so but like, how are you? Again, it's how are you being used? And I think, the current creative is still figuring certain things out.
Yeah.
You know. But it does make for kind of tricky viewing.
Yeah, yeah, and I really don't care about the pairing of JBL and Corbin. For me.
I'm still willing to be sold on it.
Sure. It's not for me.
Fair enough.
We had a trick or street fight.
Yeah.
So Riddle was dressed as Ezekiel and was joined by Elias. I didn't know he was dressed as Ezekiel until the commentary told me.
I thought he was wearing a nappy.
Yeah.
He did not fill out those trunks, did he?
I will say that I don't think Ezekiel's attire is well known enough to pull this off.
Yeah, I agree.
Is what I'd say.
I agree. I would have thought closer to, especially with that color scheme. I would have thought closer to, you know, it's the same because Ezekiel wore the same cut as like Luger or as Warrior. It's the tassels and the whatever. I didn't clock who it was either. I thought I literally was like, why is he wearing such weird clothes that don't fit him?
Yeah.
Baggy around the bum. Not keen.
Yeah, exactly. The commentary said it, so there you go.
Yeah.
Alpha Academy came out. We're also in costume. Please explain.
So they were out. They were dressed as the Chippendales. And I laughed quite hard because it was very silly. This segment from the off was supposed to be silly. I was looking forward to a lot of silly, and I am a big fan of Chad Gable, as previously discussed on this program. So I was having a good time. And then Otis did so. Oh, Otis is so funny. There is something about Otis's face, and then how he can work with his body that is so funny. And then the match started, and I was not entertained.
No.
And then the match finished.
Yep.
And I suddenly was entertained again because objectively, a pumpkin on Otis's head is very funny. That is a funny thing to look at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Riddle hit an RKO with Otis with a pumpkin on his head.
Yep, he did do that.
Distraction finish, by the way. That's number 3.
Oh, it was, yeah. I don't care about Riddle. I don't care about my Riddle. Sorry, everybody.
I don't really care about all of this.
I mean, the problem, like, I care about Chad Gable, but and I also
so
liked
much.
Chad going through a table was a very nice spot. Yeah. I just thought that it's my thing with Riddle is that like it's the whiplash effect of, you know, he's been this sort of like man-child. Suddenly he's someone I'm taking seriously in fight situations, even if he's a bit of a stoner, and now he's back to being a man-child. He's Eugene, and it's just it doesn't. I don't get it. I don't like it. I don't want it. Put it in the bin.
It's valid.
Sorry.
And I don't know. Like, this sort of stipulation, you expect fun, goofy, silly nonsense all throughout, and that's fun. You get like a Sami Zayn Johnny Knoxville match from WrestleMania where it is just nonsense the whole time, and that's very fun.
Yeah.
This was like, bit of goofy nonsense on the entrances, a match, and then a silly finish. And it was like, well, I wanted more goofy, silly nonsense because I wasn't very goofy, silly nonsense out yet.
Oh, we got the worm.
Got the worm. It's cool, I guess. Yeah.
Didn't work. Not bad.
Yeah. Damage control backstage. Bayley said they can't be caught off guard, and they shouldn't lose their titles later.
I have written here, I just feel like with some simple tweaks, this damage control storyline could work, but it doesn't.
Yes. I agree wholeheartedly. I think all of damage control are completely interchangeable. They've done no character work with basically any of them. In that Bayley is a leader.
Right.
Dakota Kai and Io Sky are there.
I don't quite go there. I see what you mean because character-wise, you could have any two people.
They're interchangeable. Yeah.
However, I like them individually and as a collective.
So do I.
I like them. I like that they were presented as a collective. It's not just like, and it didn't feel like they were thrown together. It was that Bayley brought back Dakota Kai and brought up Io Sky. Bianca and friends could be anybody.
Yes.
Damage control at the very least has that level of cohesiveness. For me, what it has been is stuff like, it just feels like the stops on the journey have been really weird. Like, and it's like if you just put that there, if you just make this happen here, if you just tweak this, then we've got a really strong little faction. Yeah, it just feels very jittery and very all over the place, and it's not 100%. Quite. I can't remember specifically what happened in this segment that made me write that down. Yeah, but I did. This was at 2 a.m. I did go off on one in my head of like, this is what damage control should be. Yeah.
Yeah. For me, I like when factions aren't all the same people. When you have unique personalities within a group. It's why, for example, I think the Bloodline is so good right now, because you have so many individual personalities all working towards a common goal. Even people like the Shield, even though they have exactly the same goal, they are not interchangeable people. They each have their own things that they're good at. Damage control, I feel like, are the same people. What do they want? The tag titles, I guess.
Yeah. They've got that very loose description of fixing the women's division, but they're not doing a very good job of it.
Yeah, it feels like there's just a lack of depth.
Yeah, I see what you mean. I think it's just this thing of I like Io Sky, so like
Io Sky's fantastic. Well. I think all three of these people individually are fantastic wrestlers, and I really like all of them. But when they're brought together, I don't feel like they're more than the sum of their parts. I feel like they're just kind of the same but together now.
I don't necessarily think I need to see excessive amounts of individual character work for a tag team. I do, however, need to see a unity of purpose and a direction, and it just feels. I think they've been let down by from the off. Why they didn't win that tournament? I have no idea. Write that down. And from that moment right through to the end, it has been a really odd, mismanaged run for them.
Very much so.
And it is not their fault, I think.
We had Mustafa Ali versus Miz next.
Here I've written, it's the 2:15 a.m. spot where I start to flag big time. It's and it's every single week. I think by the time you get to the top of the second hour, I just start to feel like the wheels are falling off the show a little bit.
Yep.
Every single week, whether it's, I think, overall a good week, segments are good, or a week where not a lot goes on. I think it's always he's struggling with his middle part of the show. Triple H is a creative head. Yeah. But I think they all have. I'm sorry to be a broken record. I know that I say the same thing every week. 3 hours is far too long to book a show.
It is.
Stop it then. Put it back into 2. Thank
you.
Or make one of the hours something entirely different. Make it 205 Live. Make it specifically. No, I don't want it to be specifically for women. I think. I don't know. Do something with that. Make it an Attitude Era recap show. Make it. I don't know. Make it Raw Talk. Make it a kickoff. Make it the backstage segment stuff. I don't know. I just think it needs to be delineated between the 2-hour main show. I mean, 2 hours is a plenty amount of time, and then something else. Yeah.
Yeah. My first note for this match was shut up Corey Graves.
Oh.
I don't like him as a commentator, unfortunately.
I like him.
Yeah.
I like his
shouting across Kevin Patrick to be like, you're missing the world famous It Kicks. Oh, God. it grates on me.
I think the problem for Corey is that he's had to do an awful lot of heavy lifting because he has been saddled with some bad partnerships. I think Adnan, no.
Ooh.
I think Jimmy Smith did his best, no. I think Kevin Patrick, we are now a month into Kevin Patrick. I think it's not working for me yet. I don't want to be mean to the guy. I don't want it to be like get good and immediately. But I do think that when you are put on the flagship show, when you are the voice of Raw, you should have already had a run on a few other shows and got good. I think when Corey works with Cole, I like it. I think I like Corey.
I much prefer Pat McAfee.
Yes, no, I agree. I agree, especially with Cole.
I think I might even prefer Wade Barrett.
I wanted when they did the SmackDown and Raw brand split in 2016. I remember wanting straight away Corey and Mauro together. I thought that would have been a really good pairing.
Yeah.
I think the problem people have a lot with Corey is because he shouts a lot over people. But I think he's carrying some dead weight, and I think that's where the problem is.
Yeah.
And I think that pushes him then too far.
Yeah,
and I think that's unfortunate and a shame. I actually liked the match to a degree. I thought the pair of them had some. I was engaged in what they were showing me. I like Ali very much. I think that he's got a weird, plucky. I think the current booking of plucky baby faces is a bit odd. It's not dissimilar to the dweebification of Johnny Gargano.
Yep.
Dexter
Lumis got involved.
Yeah, he did. He did do that.
There's another distraction finish.
Yeah, interference.
And then Moose Rawley hit a 450 and won.
And it was a nice 450.
It was a great 450.
Yeah.
He does a good one.
It's a good showing. If you're showing us that Ali is good in the ring, it's another example of that, which I appreciated.
Yep. It was fine.
Yeah.
We had that WWE Investigates Johnny Gargano segment that we spoke about before. We had a rundown of the Crown Jewel matches. And then we had the main event, which was Asuka and Alexa Bliss versus Damage Control for the women's tag titles.
Alexa wasn't holding Lily when she came out.
No.
Lily's gone. RIP in peace.
There she is.
Don't forget.
That's the only one. The only one in the world now. My first note for this one, because I was getting a bit tired of the distraction finishes, was wonder if this is going to have distractions in it. Because they were joined by Bianca Belair and Bayley at ringside. Little bit, what's the word I'm looking for? Tongue-in-cheek, I guess. But I have missed proper Asuka.
Yeah.
Oh, she's so good.
She is.
And then when she got in, she had a stare down with Io Sky. I was like, this is why we need more Asuka and Io Sky. Give me that matchup.
Yeah.
That's a great matchup.
And I thought about that a lot during the match. I was like, I can't wait to see this happen at some point in the future.
Exactly, yeah. Asuka's so good. She did like her flurry of really quick strikes, doing like the back fist and the kick stuff, and I'm like, you're so good.
Yeah.
Where have you been for so long? She managed to eventually in this match get in the Asuka lock, but there's a distraction.
Yeah.
Crazy how that works. Where Bayley came in and caused the distraction from the referee, so they didn't see Io Sky tapping out. Bianca then evened the odds with Bayley. They brawled, got up onto a little podium that was there. Don't know why it was there.
It was
Don't
so
question
funny.
it.
When I watched this, the table was there, and I was like, oh, okay, someone's going through that or something nearby.
Yep.
It's like when we know something is not normally there, something is about to happen. It was very telegraphed. Did it work for me? Yes, it did.
Absolutely, it was great. Did a huge Bayley to belly off this podium through tables on the outside.
Loved it.
Was great. That was a really fun little spot. So technically not a distraction finish.
Because it didn't work.
Because it wasn't the finish, but I'm going to count it anyway.
I counted it.
So then, kind of back in the ring, the babyfaces kind of get their stuff together. They manage to hit a Twisted Bliss, and they win. Bliss and Asuka are your new women's tag team champions.
I was genuinely shocked by this title change.
Very fun match as well, I thought.
I actually thought you were talking about best we've seen from Asuka for a while. I also thought it was the best we've seen from Alexa. I thought Alexa was really going for it. She was really, she had there's something disconnected on her face. I don't think she's emotionally or mentally checked in as much as she could be. But I think in the ring, she was delivering. I think I don't know what it is for Alexa that's making her check out a little bit. I don't know anything that's going on. I know she had that interview recently where we spoke about it last week, where she talked about it can be very personal. But I've always thought, right from her NXT days with Murphy and who was the other one? Blake. I always thought she was an incredible character actor. I thought she did really well. It's weird for me and unsettling for me as a big Alexa fan, and I am a big Alexa fan, to see her look not there, to see her look emotionally distracted, to see her look tired. I loved seeing her work. I loved seeing her go for it physically. I just hope that this is something that then gives her something to sink her teeth into. Is you know, I hope she's being looked after.
Yes,
because there's something felt off for me there.
Yeah,
but great. I thought Dakota can be a bit baggy sometimes. I think she's got such a slender frame that sometimes, and she's so tall that sometimes it can feel a bit like a puppet, like it's a bit wild. It's
a wacky waving inflatable on flaming tube, man.
A little bit exactly that. Like it's a little bit like she'll go for a kick and it doesn't quite land, but because she's so tall and slender, it looks more obvious than it does for other people. So I think if she can tighten that up, because when she does connect, it looks tasty, and I do think she's great. It was a good match. I just was really surprised about the title change, and it did feel backwards. It's yet more of this weird for all of them. This weird, like, you know, storyline is being all over the place. I don't know now what happens at Crown Jewel. Do
I assume Bayley's going to win.
Well, why? Because Bayley should have won at elimination rules.
Extreme rules, elimination rules, yeah.
And then the tag team titles come back, and then Crown Jewel is where Bianca gets it back, and the heels are defeated and they go away. It's all done in a weird order, and I don't understand the cohesion. It's very odd.
I purely think that Bayley's going to win because this is now thrown off the idea. It's the reverse psychology. It's the damage controller weakened, so Bianca's going to win, but actually Bayley's going to win.
There's something to be said for clear direction psychology. Reverse psychology is not the one. Yeah. I think it's the, I've said this before, so sorry for repeating myself, but it's the George R.R. Martin line of, if you've written your story and you've planted that the Butler did it, and then at the last minute you say the chambermaid did it just because you fancy surprising people, your audience are going to be a bit bothered because they've been telegraphed and they like to see a thing through to conclusion.
Yeah.
Do it then.
That's that.
Do it in the order. Stop trying to do it for the sake of surprise.
And this is why I personally take issue when people being like, this storyline is so predictable. It's like, that doesn't mean it's bad. Predictable can be good because you know where it's going and you want to see a thing happen.
Yeah.
And then that thing happens and you get the setup and the payoff of what you're expecting.
It's catharsis. That's what catharsis is.
Exactly. Yeah. Yes. Whereas, this just feels like, I don't know what direction we're going at this point. So
and it's frustrating because they're all great. I think the problem is this story has sort of a little bit diminished all 6 of them.
Yeah.
And that's frustrating to me.
Yeah.
It's like, it's not... Bianca, there's an ultra chat we're going to get to that I've read in a second that I kind of agree with. Bianca is there. Alexa and Asuka are there. They are and friends.
Yeah.
Even now with the belts on them, maybe they'll go somewhere. Maybe they'll end up with a story between the 2 of them. I don't know, but they are currently just there. And Damage Control are so back and forth and so up and down that the energy and the momentum that they came in with, the fire that they came in with, the idea that Bayley, is the one. I've got that pin over them. That when they won at Clash, I was like, wow, here we go. They're all just sort of there. No one has been furthered by this story. And I think after all the energy and time they put into it, that is a shame.
Yes, exactly. And they had a lot of momentum when they first came in.
Yeah.
And it feels like they haven't anymore.
And that's
a lot of it's been squandered.
Yeah.
Which is a shame. Let's get into the last of your Ultra Chats here. Last chance to get those in at WrestleTalk.com/support. Send those in. All the ones that are $5 and up, we're going to read. Last chance to get those in. BM Whitehouse 76 said, is Bianca Belair slowly approaching Charlotte levels of booked too strong? She's been the same character ever since she won the Rumble 2 years ago and feels stale to me. How much longer can she stay like this until people notice and turn on her?
I've already started to turn on her. And it's not about her. It's more about, I find that weird AR lip thing really annoying.
Oh, it's bad, isn't it?
I just hate it.
Yeah.
I find I'm not invested. It's this thing of, she is great. Don't get me wrong. Her match with Sasha. Oh, I showed it to my girlfriend the other day because she's not a wrestling fan, but I wanted to show her this particular moment, that the whip crack. Because it was just, and then how much it meant to people in the crowd and how much it meant to the 2 of them to have delivered this incredible match.
Yeah.
I think about I do think about that Royal Rumble showing. I think about a lot of things with Bianca. The match with Becky at WrestleMania, that was very much the match of that night. Like I think Bianca is an incredible performer. these characters can run stale, especially if they're not. And the mic segments from the promo segments from Bianca have not lived up to it. They've just not been cohesive. That's what I mean by this storyline has sort of diminished her a little bit. Because she can be altered. I'm not worried about you in a numbers game because you've demonstrated to me on numerous occasions that you're fine. What happens in this last man standing match, I don't know. Maybe there is. Where do you take the character though? Where do you take it next? What do you do with it? Is it that she's lacking a bit of bite? Is it that she's the too strong thing is right? Is it too easy for Bianca? Is it too easy?
Yeah,
I don't know.
I think it's a very, very good point, and I think the reason why Bianca has had probably more staying power as the same character than someone like Charlotte has, for example, before fans turning on her, is I think that her character is a bit more palatable and likable than Charlotte's is, because Charlotte's is very heelish, like, I'm the best, everyone like me.
And my surname is Flair.
And my surname is Flair. Whereas Bianca kind of has that charisma and that fun kind of like bouncy personality that a lot of people kind of like resonate with and like.
I think the package they showed, it might have been before Extreme Rules, but the package they showed of her being this underdog who, you know, had the athletics career and really had to work for everything she's got. Yeah. She's an incredibly likable person.
Absolutely, yeah.
She really is.
And I think that's why people are so willing to stick with her with this character. But I do think there will come a point where people just go, can we see something new, please?
See something new. Give me something new.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alpha Wolf said, just a quick thought for you both. Have you noticed that Uncle Howdy has the same Christian Cross earring as Bo Dallas in the same ear, too? Also, other than the Rollins match and tag match, Raw was a bit pants, wasn't it? 2 out of 5 for me. Hey, someone agrees with me. That's crazy. I found the one person in the world that agrees with me.
We should arrange a playdate.
We should, yes. Yeah, I saw that the Uncle Howdy character has the cross earring. I'm interested. I think
that's it. There's not much you can say too much about the Bray stuff at the moment, other than I'm interested.
I mean, I said on my SmackDown review, I'm a bit lost with all these cryptic promos. I don't really know what's happening, but we'll see what happens, I guess.
I think this is the difference, the distinction between this and the Dexter stuff, as well as another good example of I believe they've got a plan, or at least I believe Bray's got a plan. This Uncle Howdy's going somewhere. Yeah, you know, and I'm excited to see where it's going to go.
Yeah. Tails P said, "Can we just fast forward to the Miz Maurice versus Index match already? Seth was, in his NXT outfit, at least according to 2K22. Excuse me again. I guess Asuka won't be the one to dethrone Mandy anymore. JBL needs to help Corbin stand tall again. Damage control failed all night."
I mean, that's a great rundown of the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think Asuka will be the one to dethrone Mandy.
No. Who is going to dethrone Mandy? Who could possibly beat Mandy Rose? I don't know. Joe Strike said, WWE loves moments and breaking the glass. Triple H on a mission to make his mark. Rhea getting involved physically with a man is the next step. I wouldn't be surprised if they use the footage of Rhea lifting up Gallows to ask for permission to do it in Saudi.
That's not a bad shout. If any of my friends are watching, I'm about to pull something that I have memed for a long time.
Okay.
As someone who's been to the Middle East,
uh-huh.
I went to Bahrain exclusively to be that person who can say I've been to the Middle East.
Okay, yeah.
Because basically, it was my friend went on a press trip and wanted to know if I wanted to come along, and I was curious. I've never been to that part of the world, and I wanted to know. You know, we have these preconceived ideas. A lot of stuff was happening in the news about that part of the world, and I did my research and I wanted to go and find out and speak to people there and know what was going on. We went during that first Saudi show. I don't think it was Crown Jewel. I don't know
what the Greatest Royal Rumble.
Nope,
was the first one.
One of the early ones. I mean, the first time there was a women's match. It was Lacey Evans and Natalia. I think it was.
I think that was Crown Jewel
2019. It was 2019 when I went.
Crown Jewel or Super Showdown, one of the two.
One of the two names. It was that first time in 2019 that the women were wrestling, and I spoke to women when I was there, and I said, "This is cool." Like, because for me, it was that thing of like, you know, it's a big deal, and I was met with a lot of sort of like, yeah. Now, whether or not these people were people who cared about wrestling, whether or not these people were aware of what was going on, because Bahrain and Saudi are joined by a causeway. They are. Bahrain is where the Saudis go over weekend to get drunk.
Sure.
So it's very much shared culture and things like that. So I was like, okay, this is a big deal. Like, you know, it's been presented to me as a big deal. How does it feel? They didn't really sort of say anything. So it does back into this idea for me that these shows are less about breaking these glass ceilings as they are for patting themselves on the back for appearing to break these glass ceilings. This is an interesting argument. You know, here's the footage. It's cool. It sells. Maybe, but I wonder if that is a step too far for the regime in terms of what they are trying to promote in terms of women's rights. Yeah. And again, I cannot stress enough, I don't know. I'm not asserting. It's just my perception from reading the news, from having been to the Middle East. And like, you know, I don't know. I'm curious.
Yeah, me too. We've got one from Armageddon94, who's been a member for 6 months in a row. Said, I have to agree with Dan. I love all 6 of the women involved, but this feud has diminished them all.
I encourage you to use your Ultrachats to agree with me.
Yeah. Liam Leonard's been a member for 15 months in a row. Gargano's promo is so confusing. Oh my god, I found another person that agrees with me. And I just hope it doesn't go to a court where Dexter is the judge. Wrestling can be strange sometimes. Jam that jam. Happy birthday, Pete. It's not my birthday.
I was about to say, is it your birthday? Because
are you aware of the meme?
No.
Oh, that everyone wishes me happy birthday on every day that isn't my birthday.
Oh.
Yeah. It's really annoying.
Is it? Oh, that must be really bothersome.
It's very funny. There's a Twitter account that says, "Is it Pete Quinnell's birthday?"
Oh, brilliant!
And every day they say yes, except for my birthday, when they say, "Okay, guys, I have to admit, it's not Pete's birthday."
That's very good.
It was a punchline a year in the making, and it was so worth it.
Strong.
It was great. It's so weird as well, because that exact joke of saying happy birthday on a day that isn't my birthday has happened twice with different people with no link between the two.
Do you remember when people used to post on your Facebook account without you knowing? My best use of that I've ever seen is someone went into my friend's Facebook and changed their birthday till the next day without them knowing, and then they just got a bunch of happy birthday messages the next day, and they were like, "What's happened? I don't understand."
Very good.
Very good use.
That's very good. We have a missed one from Saturday's show, it seems, from Matthew Robinson that said, I believe you need to do something with Karrion Kross quickly because I love his look and entrance, but I feel like soon people will start to not care. He's not someone who can have amazing matches to make up for it, so you need to shoot him to the moon.
It's not dissimilar to Bianca. Aesthetics and performance can only get you so far. You need to really give something people to buy.
Yeah.
Roman, I bought it. You know, it's a great example. People should look at Roman and what he's doing, and that any prospective wrestler anywhere in the world should look at what Roman is doing and aspire to be that.
And also we have Ben Allison, who's a new member. Thank you so much. Really do appreciate it. I think that is it for all the Ultrachats and the memberships. So that is going to be it for the show. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming out to the show. Thanks for being patient with me and not jumping to conclusions over any of my opinions. And I hope you listened to the criticisms that we had and formed your own opinion out of that. Isn't it nice when everyone gets along? Thanks, Dan.
That's very centrist thing of you to say.
It's so centrist. Thanks for joining us, Dan, and thank you guys for watching. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Because we've got a Crown Jewel this weekend. So we're going to have live reactions to that. We're going to have a podcast review the next day.
Subscribe button. Luke was playing with it. Yeah, look at you
there
go.
It is. Yeah. I almost forgot to do that on Saturday as well. So there you go. But yeah, do that. Subscribe, like, enable notifications, all that good stuff. Watch out for the content coming soon. And try not to be too offended by my moustache. It won't be here for long. Because I need to grow my beard back very quickly. Goodbye, gang. Jam that jam, I guess. Bye. Bye.